Great. Yet another great evening. Good evening from wherever you are joining us from this wonderful evening. My name is Okoth Opondo, the moderator of Youth for Climate Debates. For the past 4 days, this is what we've been doing, and today it is a wrap. This being our 4th day, we want to finish it with a bang. We want to finish it in style because the conversations here have been amazing. To everyone who has been able to follow these conversations, keep following and keep telling each and every friend that they need not to be left out in this conversation. We've been here over the past 3 days, and today is our 4th day. All the discussion is centered around climate change and what young people can do to get into this journey of fighting climate change together, so that we don't leave this conversation and this struggle to the government alone and the government officials, because we are the future of this great continent. Yesterday, we were here tackling the topic on climate change and energy. On Tuesday, we were here tackling climate change and food security. And the first day, which was Monday, we tackled climate change communication. And on Monday, we were asking ourselves here, what is climate change? What does it mean to young people based on their daily lives? What do they know about it? Tuesday, we tackled climate change and food security, and quite a number of issues came up, from issues of resilience to people adapting to new ways of farming, so that we make the most out of the circumstances we are finding ourselves into. And who can forget the debate that we had here yesterday, the debate that had Jeremy Atambo talking about climate change and energy, the debate that had Maria Gitao, and of course Eugene Kwizera was joining us all the way from Kigali in Rwanda as a student from the Africa Leadership University. Tonight, we are not running away from that, because together with our great supporters here, that's the DocuBox and Climate Justice and Resilience Fund, together the Climate Story Lab, who have partnered with us here at Camp Deep Voices to make sure that we're just bringing you the best of the best. Remember, you have an opportunity to be part of these debates. Welcome once more, and feel free to be part of these great conversations. As a person, I'm here because I'm interested about the future of this great continent. I'm interested about the future of this planet, because we are together part of this planet. Day one, we were reminded that the only qualification that you need to be part of this fight is that you are a member of, you are living on this planet. So nobody is going to be left behind. They also reminded us that that this fight should not be left to a few people alone. It is a fight for everyone. Lawyers, doctors, students, children, everyone needs to be in this fight. Yes, and tonight we are tackling a very, 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 very critical topic. It has been mentioned over and over. Every time we have these conversations, the issue of politics comes in, the issue of policymakers, the role of leaders, and generally the role of the African politician in the whole conversation of climate change. Tonight, the topic is climate change and politics. How do these two link? Where are our leaders in this whole conversation? But before we get into the conversation, allow me to introduce my wonderful co-host, who was not here with us here yesterday, because we are discussing a topic, and that topic in one way or the other, she was affected. Energy in Nairobi. Liz Mwangi, welcome to the great debate.
Thank you, Opondo. Absolutely. I'm quite happy to be here today. At least I can join you. It was quite ironic that I got affected by the very topic I was really hoping to be part of yesterday, but you've really done a good job into introducing something that I'm very passionate about, that we're going to be talking about today, which is politics. So I'm Liz Mwangi. I am also extremely, extremely passionate about climate-centered issues and environmental and wildlife conservation. I actually work within the intersection of what we're going to be talking about today, which is climate finance, politics. What exactly is the role of the youth within all of this? How can we rally our leaders? You know, something that I heard in day 2 from one of the speakers was that if we as young people, or just as a general population, don't talk and don't say anything about climate change and make noise about it, our leaders are not going to do anything. So that's why we're bringing this conversation and ending with a bang, as Opondo said, talking about exactly what is the role of politics within this space and exactly why do we need to have it. Politics feeds into so many things in our lives, into literally every part of what our society is. And if we can find a way to bring that into the realm, then that'll be perfect. So I'm quite happy because one of the videos that we will be looking at today is actually centered on just exactly how climate and politics works together. We're going to be looking at a video that breaks down something that I think many of us don't know about, or even if we do know about it, we're not always keen to follow up on it. So I hope you guys do enjoy this following video. We look at what exactly is climate finance, what is climate funding, and why do we really, really need to care about it? Thank you.
And maybe Liz, even before we introduce the video, it is also important that yesterday, for all those who are here, you just remember the Magiro film. There was a film here that was played about someone who decided to take up and own the problems of his own community in providing the alternative energy that we're talking about. Remember, the conversation yesterday was coming at a time that the price of gas in Nairobi, definitely we know where it has risen to. I was talking to Shepisho from Botswana, and he was telling me that he was just wondering even how many people right now in Botswana can afford energy, can afford even to fuel their cars, can afford the electricity in their homes. And it was quite an interesting conversation yesterday, Liz, that you missed. The same energy was the reason as to why you missed it. And maybe just to take people very quick, and Liz and everyone who was not part of this conversation yesterday, some of the key points that came out from this conversation, that in order to achieve energy equality, government all across the globe should employ inclusivity and making energy affordable to everyone as it still remains expensive. It seems that energy is still expensive to most people, and certain kinds of energy are set aside for certain people. Certain people will say, you know what, if you want to use this, this is for the rich. The common people on the ground can't use this. And there was a gentleman, Professor Weshuli, who was telling us that greater percentage of those living in our rural areas, Liz, they still use charcoal and firewood. And it is quite unfortunate. Someone even suggesting if that's then the most reliable source of energy, why don't you then just keep cutting trees but planting and replacing? Liz, what do you think about that?
I really think that's a very temporary solution. We need to be a bit more innovative and come up with things that are not about, trying to, you're affecting the environment and then you're saying, no, but I'm doing this on top of it and then doing it again. I think that's a recurring cycle that probably needs to change. And I'm glad that you asked that question, because then it segues into, the video that pretty much talks about why we actually need climate funds, why we actually need to be investing more in it, and why you who's sitting here or maybe listening, or wherever you are listening from, why it's important for you to understand, these sorts of conversations and how you can play a part into making sure that we innovate and use the funds properly in a good way. So I think we can now move on to the video and then see what it's about. And then I and Opondo will introduce you to a very lovely panelist for today and hear what they have to say about this wonderful topic.
Hey there, we're all used to speaking about the weather, wondering if the day will be sunny or rainy, cold or hot. But ever wondered what climate finance is? Get your mind off the wallet. Now, let's take a trip from Africa. The year is 2015, here in Paris, the city of love. It is here that about 192 countries have agreed on some decisions to cut carbon emissions and save our feverish planet from the effects of global warming. But that is a huge document to go through in this tiny video. Let's go back to climate finance. Climate finance is money drawn from public, private and alternative sources of financing and used to support actions that address and mitigate climate change. I'm sure you've heard about the UNFCCC. Unforgettable cake cutting ceremony? No, dum-dum. It is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The year is 1992. Michael Jackson's Black or White is the #1 song on the planet. Or is it? There's a party going on. No, not that kind of party. Some cool cats came together at the UN and declared, dudes, the tension of climate affects everyone, rich and poor. And most of these didn't come from developing countries. It was an important declaration. From that point on, any developing country that needed access to climate change funds was supposed to have been able to get the funds. And that, my friends, was the beginning of the journey. Funds are to be made available to private sector, NGOs and community groups with projects that are geared towards either reducing emissions and pollution. The idea was to help create resilient societies as the pangs of climate change unravel. Groups with concrete plan to tackle climate change, groups with impactful idea to deal with climate problem, and Africa has scores and scores of such groups. Easy, right? Wrong. Here's the catch. Information about these funds is not easily accessed, especially to those without access to internet, electricity, or even roads. True story. It seems you need to be an outsider, high-level policymaker, or a local politician. to have the bird's eye view on climate change funding. The conditions set out to access these funds will bamboozle anyone, let alone small community groups who aren't climate change insiders. So who wins? Take your time and a wild guess. You guessed it. International NGOs, multilateral agencies, big private companies, and their king. The list goes on. Where can the average community or organization find the climate funding that they need and deserve? Or rather, where and how can they demand it? The
COP21 Agreement.
It's a legally binding international treaty on climate change committed to providing support to those countries that need it. What do you and I and all the villagers in each and every country in Africa need to be asking? For starters, where is the money? The more we ask, the more we find out. Many of our national governments receive climate funding from multiple sources, donor institutions and developing agencies. And of course, the Green Climate Fund and the Adaptation Fund, both committed to investing in developing countries' efforts to adapt to the effects of climate change. Do you know how much the Adaptation Fund has been allocated to give developing countries? $10 million? No, not even close. How about hundreds of millions? Don't mind the zeros, Kevin. It's just a lot. Let's ask again. Where is the climate money? It's different from country to country, but in Kenya, the national government has many distributing agencies, such as the National Treasury, NEMA.
These national agencies will soon start channeling money through the county climate change funds.
It's different in every country. Make a point of figuring out where the money is in yours. Private sector, NGOs, civil society, university and research institutions also disburse funds. You have every right to access these funds. Climate change unequally affects poor people in low-income communities, and so there can be no climate justice without access to these funds. Join others in creating community projects eligible for climate funding and start holding your leadership accountable. Climate change is real. It's time we share the benefits and burdens of climate change equally by asking loudly and clearly, where is the climate money?
What a powerful video. I think the question that I'm also asking myself is, where is the climate money? I think this is one topic that I have never heard Kenyan leaders talk about when they're campaigning, but we know it's there. And actually, this is an interesting exercise we can do in the chat box. If you're here and you see the chat over there, maybe just type in, if you, yes or no, do you know how much money your county or whichever or the country actually even contributes to climate, just the climate sector itself, just so that we see if we're actually aware of what's happening within our own country as well. So I want to quickly move into introducing our speakers for the day. And I will start with none other but Ivan. So Ivan is a Rwandi student at the African Leadership University in Kigali. He partly works with ASEC. I think a number of us are aware of ASEC, which is a global platform for young people to explore and develop their leadership potential. Ivan is a transformational leader with a passion for disrupting the status quo by employing critical thinking and problem-solving skills to solve global issues like climate change that puts our health, sustainable development of our communities, and more at risk. It's lovely to have you here with us, Ivan, and we're looking forward to hearing more about your take on this. Then we have Jane Mitch. Jane is a Kenyan female student at Strathmore University. She is currently the Vice President of Kenya Green Universities Network, which is an initiative that engages university students on conservation of environment through clubs and societies. Jane is also a member of Kenya Safi, which is an environmental conservation organization managed by young Kenyans. Thank you so much for making time today, Jane. We are happy to have you here and we cannot wait to hear what thoughts you also have. So I'll hand it over now to Opondo to take us through into our other two speakers of the day and introduce us into the first question of the day.
Wonderful. First of all, I have to really tell all of you that I'm really happy to finally meet Ivan Samunani. We met sometimes back. I think Ivan was such a young boy by then, I think 4 or 5 years ago. Now coming back to this panel as a very wonderful debater and a young leader in his community in Rwanda. Miss Jen, finally meeting you also. We were also here with the one member from Kenya Safi, that is Maria Gitau, very eloquent and passionate about matters energy. Let me also introduce the other two speakers to this great debate. You've been waiting for these amazing people. Today it looks like the panel is composed of 4 different nationalities, apart from we, the moderators and co-moderator. Javan Mugenzi. Javan Mugenzi is a Congolese living in Rwanda as a refugee. He's one young man that also met sometimes back in some activities and very passionate about his community. He works around peace building, and he calls himself, maybe if I can just read it exactly how he would like to be phrased, I'm a peace building practitioner. That is, I think, the most important thing, because Javan believes that in the process of building peace for the communities, matters climate change must be incorporated, and Javan will be telling us more about himself later. Especially, I'd also like to hear from Javan about that mountain that we are all talking about. I think just sometime mid this year, what was happening in Congo. Ali Malekane, I hope I pronounce it right, Malekane from South Africa. The second South Africa joining us here after we had Charmaine Muloto, also from South Africa on day 2. Ali is a podcaster, and I just want to dwell on that, because all the times that I've got an opportunity to participate in Ali's live podcast is always about bringing young Africans together to talk matters, politics, business, community, and everything. At the age of 24, he's running, and I think running a couple of businesses. At the age of 24, he has his own radio station that he's using to mobilize his own community. Oh, at the age of 24, he is a debater on this panel. Ali, welcome to the debate. Welcome to Youth for Climate Debates. Javan, welcome to Youth for Climate Debates. Ivan and Miss Jen, all of you welcome. And of course, everyone watching us from home. Remember, we are live on African Voice Radio. That is our live podcast by Camp D Voices. You can follow this whole conversation also on Facebook, both on Climate Story Lab, you'll get the link, and also on Camp D Voices. You can follow this conversation on YouTube, Camp D Voices, but also right now we are on Twitter. People are tweeting about these Youth for Climate Debates. Youth 4 is a number, the figure. Youth for Climate Debates. Welcome, all of you. This conversation, Liz, is coming at a time that is very interesting. In the midst of the pandemic, elections still happening in Africa. You've had cases where we are told, we don't have enough money to conduct an election in African country. We've had cases where people have gone ahead to conduct election and conduct rallies because we don't know which one comes first. In the year 2021, by the end of the year 2021, 13 countries would have done their presidential or the general elections where they get an opportunity to elect the leaders of the country, most of the prime minister, the president, or whatever the title that they have. Some countries have already done so. Other countries are still in the process. And I know one of the countries will be having an election later on this year, even in December, as late as December 14th. The question now that we are asking ourselves tonight, if climate change can ever be part of our politicians' speeches, is climate change something that they ever talk about? Is climate change something that even ever crosses their mind? If it ever crosses their mind, do you think it is something that will make you change your view on a certain politician or on a certain political party's politics? So the first question tonight, ladies and gentlemen, right on your screen, the first question is, have you ever had an African politician talk about climate change? And if yes, where was this? Have you ever had an African politician during those rallies somewhere in Kigali, Rwanda, or somewhere maybe in Limpopo, South Africa, or where my good brother Javan comes from in Congo, or even here in Nairobi, Kenya, or Liz, wherever you've been to? Have you ever had an African politician talk about politics? I mean, about climate change, and he tries to incorporate climate change matters in his politics, in his or her politics. Ivan Samunani, allow me to start with you, brother.
All right, I hope you can hear me well. Thank you very much for the space. It's really good to be part of this panel. And I'm also really interested to hear what all these young people are going to be talking about, especially on climate change and politics. Well, I don't know if I have time to reflect back to what the video was talking about, but if I may, I think it also it sets a good foundation on what we're going to be discussing, especially on the part of what plans governments have or have set in place that are going to be responding to this issue of climate change. And part of it is also having access to climate funds, which, yes, we are all asking ourselves, maybe some people do not do it, as Liz Mwangi mentioned, where is this money and who should have access to it? I think that sets a really good foundation of all this conversation that we're going to be having here. So going straight to the first question, yes, I've had a leader, and actually the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. It was in 2021, actually, at the beginning of it, January. He was talking, he was addressing this in this summit. It's called Climate Adaptation Summit, where different leaders and international organizations and also scientists and private sector, civil society, and also youth representatives. So he was talking about. He started by mentioning really good statement that as we work to slow climate change, we should also be thinking of how we should mitigate its effects. And part of mitigating its effects is adapting to this. When you look at, us reducing carbon emission at this stage is no longer enough to tackle this problem of climate change. So at this moment, we should be realizing that it is important to start adapting to this, to this normal way of living, the warming world. So I think as he was also talking, addressing this panel, he also mentioned about different challenges that we as a country are facing at this moment, where we are facing unusual heavy rainfall, changing in weather patterns, and also affecting the production of agriculture, since it is also the second contributing the highest percentage to the GDP of Rwanda. So this is a challenge, and I think our president also recognizes it as a huge challenge that we should be tackling. So he also talks about different measures that Rwanda is taking or putting in place to mitigate and slow the climate change. And part of it, maybe I will also talk about it later as we move forward with the discussions, is putting in place a board that is in charge of integrating long-term plannings that will enable us to mitigate this issue of planning of climate change. So basically, that's what he talked about during the summit. And yes, I would agree that our leader is also seeing it as a really good way of us contributing to the mitigation of climate change effects.
Okay, wonderful. That is from Ivan. Let me head to South Africa now. Early with the politics of EFF, the politics of the Red Berets, the politics of DC, that's Democratic, the Democratic Party, and the politics of the ANC, because these are the three parties that we know really control the politics of South Africa. Have you ever heard any of the leaders talk about climate change or climate action during their speeches? Even just that word, climate change, climate action, maybe in 2 minutes, brother.
All right, thank you so much, Chairperson. Allow me to start by greeting all those who are on the panel with the 5 names of the, most of the young people who have been fighting for climate change. Through you, Chairperson, we have Wanjuru Waturu coming from Kenya, Olatusu Ateniki coming from Nigeria, Yola Mkokwane from South Africa, Lien Mamakweru from Uganda, Nkosi Nyati coming from Zimbabwe. I greet you by the 5 names of the young climate activists of Africa. I want to be honest with you, my Chairperson. I don't want to lie to you, Chairperson. I tried my best. I have made research several times based on how I know the politicians. My answer is that I have never heard my politicians in South Africa talking about climate change.
And early on that note, what do they talk about mostly? What do they talk about mostly?
In most cases, they talk about corruption. They talk about, developing, creating employment. They talk about restructuring the government. They talk about new policies which need to be implemented in the government. They talk about poor management of the politicians. In most cases, in order for them to talk about climate change, it will just be a punchline and they will never go through it. For me, I believe that a leader who talk about climate change is a leader who will talk about climate change on a day-to-day basis. You can't talk about climate change today and for the whole manifesto or for the whole period of time, you don't talk about climate change. For me, you're not talking about climate change. Most of our leaders are not talking about climate change. Through you, Chairperson, I disagree. Most of our South African leaders, when it comes to the matter of climate change, they're really not taking it into consideration, my Chairperson. I thank you so much.
Wonderful, Ali. I'm so happy I've been blessed with the new name, Liz. From today onwards, I'm not a moderator. I'm the chairperson of this meeting, and we are co-chairing it with you, Liz. Wonderful. Javan from Congo, brother. You've heard all that the politicians talk about in your community towards the election. We saw the elections happening in Congo. We saw all that has been happening. So I just wanted to speak as a resident of that community and as a citizen of that country. When you follow keenly, what are some of the matters that our politicians talk about, if not climate change? I'm assuming you guys also don't talk about climate change.
Thank you so much. It is quite fascinating really looking at what our politicians really talk about when they get on the moment of being elected and even after being elected. In my case in the country, the problem with most of leaders would just talk on climate change when it is something like erupted. Let's take a case of Kilimanjaro, Nyiragongo, or that is the thing which awakens their mind about the climate change issues. And that's the moment when they remember about that. But when something does not pick up their thought, they never think about that. Maybe, let me say, they never think about or talk about climate change because they have a lot of things to handle, which is even beyond of their capability. If we talk about insecurity, if we talk about wars which are taking place within a country from different regions, then it might maybe not looking fair for them to think about climate change, yet people are not able to stay where they are peacefully. So honestly speaking, climate change is something like a dream.
Do you think, Japan, it is because they have other important issues to talk about, which is not climate change? Do you think there are other issues which are more important than climate change? Yeah?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think that might be if really they think as the cause of climate change, I mean the crime problem within the country. That if that's not really a thing with climate change, then that will be the problem in that case. But in my understanding, then that might be a very important aspect to look at. Because people can't live, I mean, they can't live without security and think of taking care of environment which is surrounding them. That can't work.
Okay.
So they need to have lives and how to explore or taking care of what is living with them. In that case, then that will be understandable and reasonable in handling with climate change issues.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Java. Let me now come back home where I belong. That's the Republic of Kenya. And on the panel, I see Mitch Jen Awor. Mitch Jen Awor, welcome. Mitch Jen,
so much.
We had a very interesting conversation here yesterday, and someone was saying if the matters of BBI had matters to do with the climate change and climate action, they would even have a champion for it. Do you think this is something that you would also advocate for? Is it something, I mean, would you even have considered reading some of these documents which are being proposed by the different political divides if the politicians are talking about these matters?
Right, thank you so much for the question. Personally, I'm very interested in the Kenyan politics because when the head is sour, then the whole body is taken seek, you know. So it's very necessary to know what our leaders are planning for us. It's very key to understand what they have in plan for us. So it's sad that, as my colleague said, Javan, climate change is not one of the main things they're focusing on. And most of these documents, not even BBI, there's a Vision 2020, there's even the Big Four agenda, which focus on many other issues in the Kenyan community and do not address the climate change, which affects most of us, considering our economy is pegged on agriculture, which is one of the things that are majorly affected by climate change. Nonetheless, to answer the questions, if I've ever had our leaders speaking about it in a rally, personally, not really. But Maurice Ouma, one of our participants, said that he had Governor Ochilo of Vihiga, which is quite commendable. Big up to him. However, I've seen spaces where our president has been in forums. Last year, during one of the COVID virtual sessions, he spoke about climate change and how they were planning a whole multi-billion program to address it as an African continent. So I've not followed up to know how that is going, but yeah, that's a big up to them.
Great, and you mentioned that. I just remember recently I hosted the UK High Commissioner here, Madam Jane Marriott, and she was saying that right now Kenya has a very serious partnership with the UK in terms of fighting climate change, and a lot of funds have been set aside to fight that. So Liz, yes, I can confidently answer your question. I know where the climate finance is, but I've not seen it, but at least I've heard of where it is. Liz, one. Yes?
Just to add on that, with respect to climate finance, one of my discipline in life is finance, and green bonds are one of the things that are majorly being used as a tool against mitigating climate change. And it's quite commendable. We are the only country in East Africa that has issued a green bond, which is part of the climate finance. So that's a big up to the Kenyan community.
Javan, is that true? We are the only country? Kenya is the only country, Javan?
In East Africa, not in Africa. South Africa is way ahead.
In East Africa, I mean, why? Sorry, Ivan Samunani from Rwanda. Have you heard of the green bond?
Not really.
Okay, so definitely it is a Kenyan thing. Okay, so that is why Jenny is really proud of herself. So by the powers bestowed upon me by Ali, as the chairperson of this meeting, allow me now welcome one of, I want to, Maurice Ouma, if you can hear me, you say that Governor Ochilo of Vihiga, that is Vihiga County here in Kenya, that is Western Kenya, talked about climate change. I wonder if you are, maybe if you can come, maybe you can just unmute yourself, if possible, just to tell us what exactly the governor talked about before taking it to Liz to take us to the next level of this conversation. Maurice Ouma, if you can hear me and you are okay with that, you can just speak up. Maurice Ouma said that he has heard of the governor of Vihiga County talk about matters climate change. We don't really know what the governor said. So if Maurice, you can tell us briefly what he said about it, maybe it could be an information that is of great. Maurice? Okay, maybe when he comes back, we'll get into that conversation. Liz?
Yes.
Just apart from being my co-chair or co-moderator, you're also a citizen of a country. Maybe for you, have you ever heard of a Kenyan leader or a Ugandan leader or a Tanzanian leader or any African leader talk about climate change?
Yeah, like I think earlier this week, I was even mentioning how I heard the president of Rwanda talk about it on Monday. I think he was meeting a number of youths, and someone raised the question of climate change, and he gave a very, very powerful response. And I think it goes to show that the kind of attitude a leader adopts towards climate change issues also reflects on the kind of country that they're building. And I say this is so much confidence because if you look at a city like Kigali, which is a capital city, which is pretty much one of the greenest cities in the country, and you hear him speaking about it, then you're able to see 1 + 1 is adding up, But then when you have...
Why am I feeling that you are just defending President Kagame, maybe? Because that was only said in a conference. Do they really talk about this thing in the rallies when they visit communities in the villages? Or these are just talks left at summits and conferences?
I am not Randy's. I think we'd have to ask the
Exactly, that's not what I'm talking about.
But we'll hear from Ivan on that. And I feel like, something else that has come up is the fact that, and I don't really know if I agree with this argument that, leaders have other things to be thinking about, because I feel like this is also a big issue that we must concentrate on, right? I think, the fact that Kenya in itself has already started talking about green bonds, talking about carbon markets, talking about all these things that maybe other countries are not thinking about, it should kind of, reflect, and people should see that it is an important topic to have. And it's something that we must keep, bringing into the limelight for people to even understand what it is. I want to share my thoughts, but I would also really love to have the panelists share a bit more with us. And so,
maybe Liz, before you share your thoughts, and even before moving to the next question, Javan mentioned something also very interesting. We all remember the story of Nyiragongo in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Javan, as someone who comes from that area, what were some of the sentiments made by the politicians when this happened? Because I heard a certain leader saying, it is God punishing us. These are things which were written in the scriptures. What are some of the sentiments, Javan?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. After the occurring of the issue, the leaders, what they have done is just to communicate to our citizens within such location. The Nyiragongo was mettering down with the houses to flee the place and try to find the secure places. And also some in collaboration with the borders, neighboring country, to allow them getting into like Rwanda, because many have been bordering to Rwanda, so to have such safety. And it has not actually happening only in DRC, but also it takes some part in Rwanda. And also many Rwandan part in Gisenyi, which is third city in Rwanda. Also, many of them left the place, but after some weeks, also people get back and settling again, but with many distractions in economic activities and social activities, but also the houses. Many people have left with nothing because of it, but later, after some couple of weeks, after people getting back, then two leaders, I know many of you have watching that, visited one another for the part which have been destroyed and trying to see what they can do together in supporting one another by settling that issue so the people might then get better after that kind of horrible situation.
Great, thank you. Liz, let me know how I just have my glass of water. Take it over, Liz.
All right, awesome, great. And thank you so much for that, Javan. I think it's quite interesting when you see how, as I keep on coming back to this thing, how leaders react to different situations in our climate sphere, in our environments, is the kind of change that you're going to see within your own communities and societies. But I actually want to rope Ali into this next question to be our first, speaker, because I know, Ali, you mentioned that in South Africa specifically, many of the leaders do not really talk about, you've never heard of it, anything, all you hear about is corruption, this, corruption, that. And I'm really, really curious to hear, do you know of any plan from your government on how Africa is going to transition powerfully towards a green economy that can give our people jobs and prosperous lives? It's a mouthful of a question, but you can choose to answer it from, the very starting point. Do you know of any plan from the South African government to at least move South Africa into a green economy?
All right. I thank you so much, Chairperson. Let me start by saying, when it comes to the plans, yes, plans will always be in place. And the thing is that, remember my Chairperson, a plan is something that you just have to draft it down. It's sort of a guideline, which actually you will just put it on your social media, put it on your website, that we know that there is a plan. But if you don't take your plan and put it in action, for me, you're not speaking. A plan is something that you need to jot it down, implement it, come with ways, and try to come with campaigns so that you can teach people about the plan that you are having. Yes, we do have plans in South Africa. There are a lot of them. I can tell you that we have the integrated resource plan, which was implemented in 2019. We also have the economic reconstruction and recovery plan. We have the national climate change adaptation strategy. We have the integrated resources plan. We have the national energy efficiency strategy. We have the national development plan for 2030. We have the national greenhouse gas emission for reporting regulation. We have the sectoral gold spill management plan. We have the national, it's a lot of them. I can read them, we can go through of them. None of them are being implemented, even though if they're saying they implemented them. But for me, I'm saying that they're not doing anything, because the only time when they're speaking about climate change, the only time when they're speaking about these policies which they're having them on the books, on the social media, the ones which we have employed them, the ones which they're using our taxes, we're paying them salaries, saying that the environment whatsoever cold, they're not doing anything. The only thing that most of the politicians are enjoying, it's gallivanting. It's when they're having summit where they have to go to America, wherever, due to this environment thing, they just go there. But for me, I feel like we still lack a lot of people. We see a lot of young South African coming with new organizations whereby they're trying their level best. I remember I was reading an article, some of the university, looking at the University of, the Pretoria, the students, they tried their level best to negotiate with the university that at least, how about if they make sure that they move into the green energy? How about if they make sure that they implement some of the other things which are in relation to climate? But the thing is that our leaders, they always speak. The problem with our leaders, it's implementation. I can tell you now, it's COVID. Yes, we know it's COVID. The thing is that climate change, it's one of the biggest contributor to most of the diseases which they're experiencing. The budget which they're having currently, you never hear them actually saying that the budget of climate change and whatsoever, it's more than the budget of everything that they're having. They will tell you that the biggest budget that we're having in the country, maybe it's a budget where they're saying is of the health sector. Yes, it should be enough. Why? Because they are going to steal that money for themselves. But even our leaders, they had plans whereby they can come with policies, whereby they can create policy whereby they teach the young ones about solar. They make sure that they become like China. Look at China. China is one of the powerful countries in the earth. China is one of the best country which is importing and exporting a lot of things. Most of the equipment which we're almost using them in Africa, especially in line with solar, they're coming from China. China is one of the powerful country in the world. What's wrong with Africa? We have a lot of resources, we have a lot of minerals. Look at South Africa, look at Zimbabwe. We have the power to do everything. The thing is that our leader, our leader is just in a very way in which I don't know how to explain them. One, they're looking at their own pocket. Two, they don't mind about the future of this country. They only mind about their stomach is empty, now it must get food. Now, that's the problem with them. And secondly, they need to give us as the young people time, chance, so that we can be in the parliament. If now I was in the parliament, I will make sure that I speak to the Pan-African Union Parliament to make sure that they implement a policy which will cover the whole Africa. Climate change is not all about South Africa or Nigeria.
And I'm going to stop you there because I can feel the frustration in your voice where I'm seated. Like I can hear.
Let me clap for Ali.
And I hear
that is so passionate.
I think when we have that kind of drive to really see, and like you're speaking from your heart because you're so frustrated and you can see what needs to be done. And I'm so glad that you're also doing something within your own capacity and you're raising a voice and you're sharing something about it. But you also raise a very important, topic, which is also around education and how politics also feeds into education and educating other people about the issues that are happening, and not just necessarily saying this plan and this plan and this plan, but following it through to the end, right? I think I saw someone in the chat box say something about, it's just for speeches. People go on World Environment Day, they go on World Ocean Day. Sometimes it can feel as if it's for formalities, right? And I'm quite curious to hear what Ivan would have to say about this, knowing that, you've said very clearly that you've seen a lot of change happening in your own place. You've seen the plans move from plans to action, right? So can you share a bit more about, what are some of these plans that you've seen your government working on to move Rwanda into a green economy where people can be able to have jobs, opportunities, all of that come up?
Well, thank you very much. Well, at the start of this debate, I thought I was going to. I mean, I was the only one who's going to be on the positive side, supporting the government. But as Jen talked about, Kenya also trying to put into action some of the plans they have, also gave me some energy to continue on this side. But first of all, reacting on what you talked earlier, also a question that I also saw in the chat box. When I think for the sake of Rwanda, it's quite different because our leaders are also trying to put into action these plans they have. When you look at Rwanda, it's a country that depends highly on agriculture. And lately, agriculture's production has been decreasing simply because of climate change. So there's no way that we can address the issue of agriculture production declining without addressing the issue of climate change. And it's also important that these people who are involved in agriculture on a daily basis, be it public and private sector, are also contributing to this implementation of these plans. Also, it's not only that, Rwanda also has been put in place in a funding opportunity. So it's called FONERWA. And what they do is providing funds to different projects that trying to tackle the issue of climate change. So this is also one of the ways that the government of Rwanda is trying to put into action this. And we see so many projects that are put into place to address the issue of climate change. And also something that we've been also trying to do is open up the borders to investors who are willing to come into the country and set up business and industries or businesses that are also trying to address this issue. And we see so many innovative and creative ideas from so many young people who are also passionate about climate change, solving climate change, and also trying to figure out different ways that we can mitigate its effects. So I would say that, yes, it's not just about putting plans there, but also the government is trying to, even encourage young people. So because we all believe that young people are really creative and innovative. So Rwanda has been really encouraging young people to take up, to take action to this issue, as is also vital to our future generation of this country.
Yeah. That's wonderful, and it's sort of like a visionary look, involve people who are going to be the ones carrying the country tomorrow, and you're going to see a powerful change in that. I'm very curious to hear where that is happening in Congo. Javan, can you tell us whether you've seen? I mean, I know you said that there are issues of insecurities, the issues of sometimes leaders are overwhelmed with things they can't even handle themselves. So where does the green economy come into this effect? Is anyone paying attention to it?
Sincerely speaking, no one even knows what is about it. And I don't know if it is because it is not there, but I'm not quite sure that it is not there. It is. But maybe there are something they are paid attention to look on. And I don't know, as I've been saying this in the beginning, if they're paying attention in that connecting with that matter, or they're busy doing something else, maybe we don't know. But they never think about that. They never talk about that, and they do not see it as a problem. And I can't blame them on my side, because even what they were able to do, some they are not able to do it and to make it clear and to resolve it. So how then come they will handle such issues of climate change?
Yeah.
They will not. If people are not able to afford transportation due to bad constructions, that simple thing, in my understanding.
I think, Javan, are you still there? I think we've lost you a bit.
Yeah, I've lost him.
Okay, I think we'll come back to you in a bit. But I think he was
just can be easy to handle.
All right.
How will they think of that? That will not work, because there is something basically and important they fail to handle, and that is then beyond of the, unless someone else comes and intervene to make it execute there. Yes,
absolutely, absolutely. I have a question for you, but I want to ask Jane this question as well and come back to you, because I am aware that, you know, I think it's earlier on this year that the Congolese government was actually given a huge sum amount of money to support in their reforestation or something revolving around the climate finance fund. From your face, I see you've never even heard of it. So that tells me that there are a lot of question marks, that people are not communicating. Something is happening in between that is not getting to the people. So Jane, I know you've spoken about, you know, the green bonds, you've spoken about, I think you mentioned carbon markets or something related to that. So I'm just quite curious to hear whether you've seen any plans being put into implementation by the Kenyan government, and if it's even in any way supporting us towards the move towards a greener economy full of opportunities and, you know, job creation opportunities as well.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity once again. There are many things that contribute to climate change, and yeah, so one of them is definitely environmental degradation and all that. We need to recognize that we host UNEP headquarters in all the world, yeah? So that's one of the things in the whole world, worldwide, yeah? That's one of the things that Kenya has done that has put them ahead of the rest, yeah? Because we're able to now be the source of all types of solutions, and yeah, whatever the problem is, it's from home, it's solved from home, and it's easier to even deploy resources, deploy human resources as well. However, the efforts are not as exponential as you'd want it to be. There was one thing on the video that we played at the beginning, there was something written UN car, and yeah, this money probably that is supposed to be used for climate is being used to buy the cars, or furnish their lifestyle, you know.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I don't think much effort has been put other than putting in place bodies. We have NEMA, a body, National Environment Management Authority, I believe, that follows up on the various policies, people who pollute the environment and such things. And I don't think they're as rampant as I'd want them to be. Recently, also the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, which is in charge of many things, but one of them which I know is garbage collection. Also failing. Yeah, the system is just quite broken, and we need disruptive change. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's things that are put in place, but the implementation is quite rusty. And that's the main problem, implementation. There's so much plans, so much big words, but there's no one to put the work and to actually follow through till the end.
Yeah, that's true. And I think one of the other things you've mentioned is, you know, the idea that there's a mismatch between, you know, the gap and the implementation of it, right? Something happens in between where now we start seeing people moving around in new brandished lovely cars, and you wonder where the money has gone to. Ali, I'm seeing your hand raised up, and I am going to give you a very strict 1 minute to share what you want to say quickly before I hand it over back to my other co-chair.
All right, just very quickly, I'm not sure if you can hear me clearly. Very quickly, you know, I think the main issue here is that most of the politicians whom were actually giving them power to lead Africa or to lead our country, the problem is that they are not taught how things need to operate. I think now it's the right time that as Africa, as the Pan-African Parliament, we start a political school, which is called African Politician School. Before, if you want to fall in a certain politician, you must actually graduate before. Not just you fought for freedom or you fought for apartheid, that you need to be a president. No. Now, the problem with our leaders now is that they're looking on apartheid. Now we're looking on solution of climate change. We're looking on solution of developing the economy. It's not a matter of who fought for what, who did what, who could do what, segregation of black and white. No. It's a matter of now solution, which means youth, no more old people in the parliament.
You know, I think you've already answered your next question, which is kind of segues into the next one is, and Opondo will introduce this, is how now can we start bridging this gap? What can we do in our own capacities? We might not be politicians who are rallying and lifting our hands out there in the streets and saying, follow me, do this, all of that, but we can take action in our own capacities. So Opondo, I think you can also kind of answer this question, right? I mean, I know you're Kenyan, maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't, but is there hope for a green economy where Kenya can rise up and say that we have transitioned successfully and so well into a greener economy?
I do agree with all the panelists here that there is hope, but sometimes also a matter of who is carrying the hope. When Ali talks about starting a school for the politicians, I will also add that, it is so difficult to teach old dogs new tricks. It is very difficult to teach an old dog new tricks. You do not expect someone who was a politician in the 70s and the 80s and 90s to address the modern day challenges, right? Most of these people are leaders of Africa when when oranges and mangoes were still wild fruits. Nowadays, we have to get out of our way and make sure that some of these fruits are available. So the only people who understand all these, and even when we're talking about the green revolution and the changes that we're talking about, must now be the faces that are here and the faces that are also watching at home. The young people who are right now in the teens, those who are in their 20s and their 30s. And I think this is a war that we have to brace ourselves and be ready to join, whether we like it or not. But I also like what Ali stated at the beginning when he was saying that a plan is just a plan. Liz sometimes back ahead a plan of having a very good wedding. It is still a plan. It is on the paper. So until you execute it, it is just a plan. Yes, Ali? So you can have a plan of how you want to succeed academically. You can have a plan on how you want to wake up tomorrow and study. And we've all been students at some point, Sometimes when you're going to sleep, you say, I have a plan. I want to wake up at 4 a.m. and do this so that by 7 I'll be out of the house. By 7 you're waking up. The 7 that you're supposed to be out of the house, now you're waking up and you want to start fulfilling the whole plan. So definitely, Ali, thank you so much for bringing the issue of plan. I thank you all for that, and Javan, Ivan, and Mitch for addressing question 2. Now we are heading to a very critical question. And guys, don't frown too much. It is a conversation. Feel free to smile. I know we are living in very tough times, but it's a good time to be happy. As a young person, yes, as a young person in your community, because remember, Liz, you've said that leaders must also play a role. But as a young person, whether you are contesting or even voting, what would you like to see these politicians talk about? And even leave alone the president. We're trying a president to make a candle for Kenyans, just saying that those big positions, let us put them aside. Let's come to the level of these people representing at the world level. You achieve all these people representing you at these offices that you interact with first. Would you like them to have some of these climate action plans into their manifestos? And if so, how would you even like this to be incorporated in their plans? Would you like to hear more of this in these conversations? And also above that, on top of that, would this definitely change how you're going to vote in the next elections of your countries? In Kenya, we are talking of 2022, just a year from now. We already know what it's talking about. It's about ethnic balkanization. It's about this big tribe coming up together, these other tribes, so that we get one presidential candidate and the other tribe takes the running mate. But if it is matters climate change and climate action, would this change how you look at things, Ivan? And now let us put President Kagame aside. I think we've overpraised President Kagame. Now let's look at these other smaller positions in the community.
Yes, yes, I'm going to put him on the side, and I think this is something that should also be part of their manifestos. And reason being, yes, all these countries are, like some of them, are also trying to respond to this climate issue. But how are we also looking at, if we are trying to transition to a green economy, what are the effects around that? Yes, we are trying to respond to it, but are there other effects that are going to come after that? So if I was to, to vote for someone making a decision, yes, I would be happy to see this being part of their manifestos. And what I would like to see in their plan is, how are they integrating, this issue of climate and also other development strategies to deliver a green economy and also create an inclusive development where everyone is also part of it. So we are talking of going, for net zero. But when you try to look at what this means, it means that there's total transformation of energy systems. Yes, and that means some people are going to lose jobs. Yes, if we are going to abandon this, the use of coal oil, fuel. So how are we going to also make sure that these people are not also going to suffer? Because as I said, we are going to be creating poverty. So what I would like to see is, yes, making that plan, which is really totally true, which is also needed, but also look at the side effects of it. So this is something that I would, be happy to see in their manifestos. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Ivan, I'm looking forward to seeing all these politicians talk about this. Let me head to South Africa, to the most passionate man on this panel, who now I see most members in the audience are saying that is such a powerful speaker. Ali, by the way, are you considering running for a political post?
Right. Thank you so much, Chairperson. I can only hear you, but I can't see anything, but I hope I'm audible. Can you confirm that for me?
Ali, I'm asking the question I'm asking to you first. Have you ever considered running for a political post?
No, Chairperson.
Yes. Have you ever considered being a politician at some point in your life?
No, Chairperson.
Okay, go on. Go on, my chairperson.
All right. Through you, Chairperson, with the 5 names of the young climate activist, Wanjuru Watu from Kenya, and also Adusu from Anike, Nigeria, and Yola Mukhoro from South Africa, and Lini Namukweru from Uganda, and Nkosi Nyatini from Zimbabwe. With the 5 name, Chairperson, I tell you this. The only thing that can actually change my mind to go with EFF, ANC, DA, whatever, political party which is within South Africa. These are the pillars that I'll be looking at. I'll be listening to the president, the speakers. If I can hear the president saying that we are going to keep the fossil fuel in the ground, we are going to invest into the renewable energy, we are going to switch to sustainable transport, we are going to help us keep our home cozy, we are going to improve the farming and encourage vacant. We are going to restore nature to absorb more carbon. We are going to protect the forest like the Amazon. We are going to protect the oceans. We are going to reduce how people consume. We are actually going to reduce plastic. We are actually going to come with new ways how to create jobs with climate. We are going to come with companies which are going to make sure that we substitute Eskom and we focus on solar, wind, water to generate electricity. That's the party that I'll listen. A party will tell me about climate is not a problem. For now, people are starving. Now we need jobs for that. People don't have to starve. I understand the point. Yes, we are starving, but we need a renewable solution. We don't need a solution whereby you tell us to build RTPs. We build RTPs, houses, in a period of 3 months. After building the houses, people are jobless. But if you build a power station whereby it's off solar, the employment, people will retire. They'll have to keep on watching the solars. When we look on the issue of transportation, the Pan-African Parliament need to introduce electronic vehicles in Africa. We need to take out of the petrol and also the diesel vehicles in Africa so that we can also make sure that we fund and make sure that we empower entrepreneurs to come along with power stations which can be able to assist. I thank you through you, Chairperson.
Ali, even before you go, Ali, I just feel like saying Amanda.
I'll wait.
Because it's Hey, wonderful, Ali. Thank you so much, Ali. Javan from Congo, Javan, a brother from Congo, what is this one thing that will make you change your view on a certain politician and even vote for them if they incorporate about climate change?
The thing is that what can make me happy is that whenever what we are considering much important we need really to put into account and consideration of the climate change situation and all the issues we're addressing, and we are all delivering speeches for how to handle them, to be also the part of the thing people can look at that can be much better. And I can just say that as a peace practitioner, because I understand how much our environment plays a role in our life. And people actually, they're thinking about some other aspects of really improving life, but they know about climate change. And this is the thing everyone will never escape as soon as possible. And all that we have been struggling for years is going to be zero. And just because of only one thing anyone will never handle, if we don't step forward for the beginning until really we take a long project with many years and generations, which we take over maybe after our absence. So we need to really to talk on this several times, because I think what we think and we speak as we do, if people do not take a moment to speak about the issue, then there is a doubt of what might be changed, what might be done. But the more people take the moment of speaking about it, then there is a hope and there is a great thing, because that is awakens the thought of the people about the matter. And that would be making much me better and happy for that, because that will be raising awareness in the people that there is a problem, because someone else has been spoken as a figure. Thank you.
Javan, the place where you live in, maybe you can just tell us briefly where you live and why you live in that place where you are living, because there's a question that I want to do as a follow-up to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm right now from Kigeme refugee camp. It is one of the camps in Rwanda, located in southern province of Rwanda.
Okay.
And I am there right now because of different political issues within my country that made me to look for security and get to Rwanda for getting security. Thank you.
Great. And okay, living as a refugee there, because I know these are matters that we talked about before, and together we agreed that in one way or the other, we have to keep fighting to make Africa a better place. Not really the war that we're talking about, but I mean just the direction that we have to take the continent, free the country from arms, and I mean the continent from arms and all that. So let me ask you, Javan, do you think right now where you are, is it even a priority to talk matters climate change? Does that even cross someone's mind? Really, I know you've addressed it before, but now with everyone now knowing this is where you are, don't you think this is too much to ask?
No, I really love that, and thank you. Yeah, I think this is a new thing in minds of the people, honestly speaking, because they don't really see that, and it should be really something very important. Let me get a moment of picking up a bit on how this should be important issue. With, in the case of refugees, the big issues we are facing at the moment due to the climate change. My case study with on bachelor's degree, it was conducting challenges and opportunities of refugee camps on host community in Rwanda. But in looking at challenges and opportunities, but also there are some challenges also refugees are facing within the hosted country. And if you look at, as the literatures have been really well describing that, mostly refugee camps are carried in a place which are mostly vulnerable in terms of development, social activities, and also in the climate, I mean, environmentally vulnerable as well. And in the case of my camp, is located in a place which is full of with trees. Why do they plant more trees? Because
yes, Javan, Javan, we are losing you.
Is quite difficult, which affected refugees and people. Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, you're back. Go on.
Yes.
Maybe in the next few seconds you can finish your point.
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very well.
Yes. I was just saying, like, the place refugees are hosted is much affected with the crops, and crops is quite harder to grow from that place because of the droughts, which are due to the setting of the place, but also much contributed about the climate change of such certain place. And that affected refugees because that made them, also the host community, not only refugees, but also the host community, to get, the clubs getting food much not easy to be accessible, because within such environment, it's quite not easy to find such crops growing from certain place. Only trees are growing. Maybe I can see that it's more better for agro business, which is more about trees and something like that. So this is then the issue, which is the big and important to look at that. But many people, they don't look at that because maybe our culture, we don't see as a problem, but also leaders, they don't take it as a problem. And that's why the local people, ordinary people, they can't ever see it as a problem. As long as their leaders, whom they're looking as a mirror to them, then they're not taking it as a problem. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Javan. Let me also now bring in Jen Mitch. Jen Mitch, if there's one thing that you've not told people here, that you are once a vice president, maybe you can tell us a vice president of what exactly, because I don't want to share more. Maybe just briefly your leadership journey, then now we bring it back with the question that I wanted to raise to you.
All right, thank you very much. So I was previously the vice president of the student body at Strathmore University, but my term just recently ended, and right now the new team includes even Maria Gita, who was in the panel yesterday. So my experience was
which Jen, that definitely means that now the genes of leadership are in you. And now we are even expecting much, because, having served as the vice president of Strathmore, such a great university in Kenya also, and the fact that you're also the only female debate on this panel today, this also really gives me a lot of hope that, there's just so much also still to be done, so that we keep incorporating everyone in this conversation. Leading, also being part of, you are also the founder of Kenya Safi, among the founders of Kenya Safi. If a politician is ever to approach you and say, okay, fine, we know you're running this kind of initiative, let's have a sit down. I want to give you, maybe I want your team or the members of your movement to support me. What is this one thing that the politician can convince you with, even to rally all your members behind this one politician?
The one thing that a politician would convince me with is, first, sustainable plans, and second, accountability for the plans themselves. So it might not be a big plan, it might not be life-changing. Change starts with one person, one day at a time. It might not be the $1 million answer to all our solutions, but as long as it solves a problem today, as long as it's helping a part of the community, then I'll definitely be on board with the idea first. Second, I need to see how you're going to be able to hold yourself accountable to it and ensure its implementation from the beginning to the end. Yeah.
Okay, that is great. And back to you, Ivan. Then before I take it over to Liz, I see we still have spared some 2-3 minutes here. And also just to remind everyone who is in the other room or in the hall here, that keep sending your questions in the Q&A segment, because I wonder, the questions are not coming. Does it mean that the speakers are too convincing to the point that they're already addressing your questions before you ask them? Because they're already smiling when they hear that. But I also see there's some great chats going on. Keep doing that. We are on Twitter trending right now. Youth for Climate Debates. Youth for Climate Debate. Keep sending these tweets and sharing with everyone. This conversation is not just about today, not about Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday when we began, but this conversation must go on. This is just the beginning. Here at Climate Story Lab Africa, this is just the beginning, and we have to keep on doing what you're doing. Ivan, a young leader from Rwanda, Mitch Jen, a young leader from Kenya, Javan Mugenzi from Congo, currently living in Kigali, and Ali from South Africa. Ivan, working for an organization or being part of an organization that is raising young leaders, is it something that you can, or maybe you also emphasize to young people that, even now as you leave this movement and get into the world outside there, maybe from ISEC, is this something that you really tell them that these are things that now must be part of your talks in your daily lives when you visit churches to do your campaigns, or maybe when you are talking to people in hospitals, in schools, in communities? Is this something that you really emphasize, or is this something that should be emphasized?
Thank you very much for bringing up such a good question. Well, when you try to look at the leaders that we're trying to develop through ISEC, these are leaders that are supposed to be solution-oriented, leaders who are going to be world citizens, who are going to own these world challenges as their own issues, not just seeing it as, there's back in the days, I would see this climate change, as a problem for those developed countries, because they're the ones that are contributing highly to these greenhouse emission gas. So we're developing young leaders who should own these global challenges and take action through being solution-oriented. So I would say that, yes, this is something that we do in everything that we do within ISEC. When you look at different projects that we are creating, the projects that are centered around sustainable development goals. And part of those goals, we also have climate change. So you find that, projects that are created in different ISEC entities, they're also trying to answer or to respond to this climate issue. But I wouldn't say that we are addressing it as we should be. There's more that needs to be done. It should be a priority. It should be taken as a priority, because we're talking about the future of this entire world. And if we are dealing with the development at this lower stage, we should also be envisioning what is going to happen in the future. So I would say that we are not really addressing it as it should be addressed. So there's more that needs to be done. Yeah.
There's more that needs to be done. Liz, passing it over to you, but because when I listen to every person on this panel talking, just giving some listening to some nostalgia, because in 2019, I had an opportunity participating in one of the elections in my constituency as a candidate, the by-elections, and running as one of the youngest candidates in this race, and also contesting without a political party. Let me tell you, it is the talks that we are having here, if only they can be escalated to that level. Because I remember in one of the rallies, one of the participants in the rally actually was asking, what are you going to do as our member of parliament? And I said, the first thing is we have, because it is a slum, Kibra, and that definitely some of the issues facing the world can easily be seen in that community. So there's a river that cuts across from Ngong, heading all the way to the city center, to the outer of the city. And the river over a long period of time, because when we were young people, I learned how to swim on that river. It was a very clean river. Today, it is not a river. Today, actually, it's just like a sewer line. So when we tried raising some of these issues, and people raise their hands and say, that is not even an issue to us. Tell us how you're going to get maize flour. Tell us how you're going to get maybe get school fees and how our children are going to be sponsored and all that. So it is still a conversation that not really common amongst the citizens, but we have to push it deeper and deeper into people so that we make sure that the change that we want is actually happening. Over to you, Liz.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. I think before I even continue, I'm just curious, when you're independently campaigning, did you have anything related to climate change manifesto in your whole campaign?
I can say mine was more of environmental conservation, because that is exactly what strikes you first when you get into my community. You see already matters of management of garbage and waste is a very big problem. The connection of sewer and the rivers, the small rivers, the streams and the rivers that we have in the community. But definitely it is also a very big concern, because one of the borders of my constituency, Kibra constituency, is bordered by the Ngong forest. And the region, people are already expanding their houses and encroaching the land. All this is happening at the watch of the local authorities. And I have to say, because this is a conversation that we've had in public, We've even seen cases where people have changed the course of the river so that they can, people have grabbed the land so that they can extend the houses to that place. But whenever it rains, you know what happens? We say in our culture that the river never forgets its course. When it rains, it comes and cuts through all those houses, and all of a sudden it becomes a crisis and people are now again displaced. I just wonder how we are going to do this, but it is also up to the young leaders in this panel and those watching to know what exactly we can do, because the big problem, housing in Nairobi and most cities in this country and even in this continent is a problem. The issues of connection of water and sewer and even electricity, definitely, you know, these are some things that really come first, please.
Yeah. I mean, wow. I feel like there's so many deep discussions coming out of this, because you're seeing a lot of different routes that people have taken. I mean, Opondo, you just shared that you've also, you know, you've seen on firsthand what happens when you're trying to vie for a position and, you know, maybe things don't work out, but you also see what kind of attitudes people might have towards climate-centered manifestos as well, you know, and it's not easy, but I always think that, you know, as I think it was Jane who mentioned something about her in her own position, she would look at exactly what is the manifesto saying. It's not just about paper, but it's also about the action behind it. And I think that's where most of us would really, really want to start. So I've been seeing, I think there was something you were mentioning earlier on, people are definitely chatting. I think there's so many wonderful thoughts coming in, which I know for sure we will get to unpack. And I'm seeing a couple more questions as well that have started coming in. So thank you so much for that. We are about to head into our very last question of the night before we get into the engaging Q&A. And because we do not have much time on this, we will give each speaker about 1 minute and 30 seconds, just so that you can summarize very quickly. And then we head into the engaging session so that we can actually have a more conversational topic about what we're talking about. So I think I want to start with Javan, right? Because Javan, you mentioned very interestingly that, you know, based on what's happening in your country, you have had to relocate and move. And so if you look back where you come from, do you think the government is listening to young people? That's the first question. And 2, do you trust your government with your future? And if no, what should we do to be heard? What should you do to be heard by your government?
Thank you. I like that. And I wish I could answer and respond to all those questions with having some representative leaders from my country and the rest as well, really to understand and see that. Yeah, the thing I meant, it's quite not easy to say that I'm confidently trusting it, as long as I see that what is really important to me is not getting a head result. It's not easy to say that. That might be a lie. And what I can say mostly, it is what should be done at the governmental level, but also to the young people. Because these changes will never occur as an accident, but some people need to take some responsibilities to make them happen. If you and other people couldn't take such a moment to talk about this, how could the world which are watching this alive could know this matter? They couldn't. So we need to stand up and speak out. What is the problem and what might be the solutions with that? And I think from that awareness, then the changes will be realized. What then needs to be done? Simply, we need to make youth or young people inclusive in decision making.
Okay.
I think I've lost him.
And also planning as well.
Okay.
Because there is a common saying, like, young people are the future. And if you analyze what they are saying, and most of the people are saying that are the old people and politicians. And what that mean in their mind? Wait for the young people, it will end up being young people. Young people are the transformers of today and future. Never
right.
put them in the future all the time.
Exactly. That's true. That's true. And that is, thank you for that. I think you're re-echoing
So we need engagement in that.
Okay, got it. I have heard you say youth inclusivity, and we need to bring people on board to see that young people are really going to transform this space. And so we need our voices in there. Ivan, I know you mentioned earlier on that the Rwandese government is already doing that. So I think I want to hear a bit more on your thoughts around this. You know, obviously, if the government is already listening to young people, do you trust them with your future? And, you know, what more do you think they can do for you to be heard?
Okay, well, I think on this question, yes, the government is really doing well when it comes to listening to young people. As a matter of fact, as Javan said, that young people should also be part of the plannings to be considered. So I think the government has been really doing well. We already have a youth body representative in the parliament, which is something good. That's also the platform that we raise our voices. But I think also it comes back to young people. Are we in the right position that our government should see us as trustworthy, as people who can really address these issues? Because sometimes the way you behave, it also informs how someone is going to take you. So for me, yes, we have so many opportunities in the country and the government is listening to us, but are we in the right position to raise our voices? I also support what Ali mentioned earlier, just to wrap up, that we should also be, we as young people, those who see this as a critical issue, we should be also trying to change the mindset of other young people as well. Not the government, but also other young people, so that we can all work together to address this issue. And in that case, I believe that our government are also going to listen to us.
Okay, thank you. That's a wonderful build-up. So not just inclusivity, but also going to the next level, knowing where our position is, and also knowing how we can be able to bring other youths on board. Jane, what about you? Do you trust the Kenyan government to be a future? And what do you think they can do more? Are they listening to us?
All right, thank you once again for the opportunity. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
All right. I definitely do trust the Kenyan government with my future, because the government is going to be made up of people like myself, you. It's going to be a whole new set of individuals. The main concern needs to be whatever Ivan has brought about. We need to be credible individuals. We need to forget the fact that things in life don't come as fast as they should. And as leaders, you also need to be sharpened by other iron, And it's not a microwave mentality. In order to be a leader, in order to take all those hits, in order to lead people, you need to make sure you've taken time to understand these issues that are concerning the people and community, and to take up those spaces. You really need a lot of time to understand them. I'm very excited for the future because, right now the main composition of the African population is the youth, and we're not going anywhere other than to take up these positions and to cause change. So I genuinely just hope that we will do it in the right way. We will do it, most importantly, in a sustainable way and not in a rush. Because we're here for long.
Well, having this sort of conversation is already a first step. So I'm also optimistic about that future. Ali, I'll finish off with you. So do you think that the government is listening to young South Africans? Do you trust the South African government with your future? And what do you think ought to be done if they're not doing so for you to be heard?
All right, thank you so much, Chairperson. I'd like to put this disclaimer. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be fair. When it comes to the government, it's not listening to the young people. It doesn't listen at all. Reason being is that we have a lot of movements have been incorporated by young people, especially when it comes to climate change and other matters which are affecting the country. Yes, they take the memorandums, but they're not resolving the problems. Personally, I don't trust the government. The government, with my future, I don't trust them. The level of corruption, which is actually increasing in South Africa, it's quite high. How can I trust thieves? How can I trust people who are actually looting the public funds? How can I trust people who don't have actually the political way of dealing with things? How can I trust people who never went to school to learn how to operate the economy? How can I trust people who are finance ministers? A person who was just busy working on kettles, now it's a finance minister. How can I trust a person who will be a doctor and come and do an operation, but who never went to school? I'm going to die. I will never trust such people. How can I trust such people?
Ali, yes, I hear you, okay? And so what do you think needs to be done for you to be heard and for you to trust this government?
Now, in order for me to be, in order for the government to take us youth into consideration, everything that is done in South Africa, it should consist of 70% of youth, 30% of adults, of old people. They need to give us chances. They need to give us the opportunities to make sure that we lead them. Now it's our time to lead Africa. Now it's our time to lead South Africa. The only thing that makes me to worry about the future of this government, we're being led by old people, we're being led by people having their own problems, which they're actually making their problems to be our problems. That's why we have corruption. We need young people to be the leaders of Africa. We are tired of this.
Absolutely, I agree. We need young people to the front lines, and we need young people who are also bringing on board young people. And I'm happy you're doing that. I'm so happy you're doing that as well. So I think I would really love to hand it over back to Opondo so that we can go through the Q&A, because I know it's such an engaging conversation that we're having right now. And there's so much that, obviously we can unpack over here. So Opondo, as I bring it over back to you, what about you? Do you trust the Kenyan government to be a future? I mean, you did vie for a seat. And if not, do you think that, what do you think ought to be done in this space for us to be able to be heard and for the government to actually take our pleas into consideration?
Okay. I think these are very good questions, Liz. Whether I trust the Kenyan government with my future. The big thing here that I like, and Jen Misha has mentioned it, that we are going to be part of the government that we are talking about. As we talk of that future, let's also remember that we are part of that future. I like it because maybe it may be theoretical, but the thing is we are in a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And who are the people? We are the people. And the people have the power. Yes, so I trust that my future is safe in the government, only that now we also have to make good choices for the people that we are electing into offices. Going to the point that Ivan Samunani mentioned, it is about also looking at who are some of these people that we are talking about here. So they are being able to having the capacity to handle the matters that we're talking about. Remember when I said that you cannot teach an old dog new tricks? I still mean it, because it is only the people of today who understand the challenges of today. And we have the power to address these issues very well because we understand. If you understand, if you truly know what it means to sleep hungry, to go to school without food sometimes, then definitely in some of your actions or even in some of your plans, you'll incorporate that. So if you truly know what it means to, to live in a place where deforestation is taking place and you see the effects, if you truly know what it means, even sometimes maybe to see how climate change is just affecting food availability, and production and availability of food in your community, then definitely, if you are leading that community, you'll think of all ways to deal with that situation, Liz. Liz? Okay. Seems Liz
yeah, here. Okay. No, don't worry, I'm still here. Definitely.
Okay, Liz, are you there? Okay, great. I think you also just saw moving straight away into the Q&A session. I don't know if there's any person here with a question, because I told you, if you're not asking any question, then it means these speakers are doing it so well that you are, I mean, they are already addressing the question that you have in mind. But also in the panel, I see some great people. Ivan, if I may just ask you this, the Vincent Kalimba on the panel, is it the same Vincent Kalimba that we know from the other side, or yeah?
I think yes.
Yes, Vincent Kalimba should just come to the screen and share a word with us here, because I know he's also doing some quite amazing things with young people in Rwanda. Vincent, if you can hear me, kindly just come to the screen, even great. Just share a word with us here. Just say hello to these amazing panelists. Vincent, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Vincent, how are you?
Thank you.
Hello, Vincent, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Very well, Vincent. Welcome to the debate.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been quite a long time. We met here in Nairobi in Aga Khan, right? Sometimes back, then later on you welcomed us in Rwanda, showed us the amazing thing that you are doing in Kigali. What do you have to say about this whole debate, brother?
This is very, very amazing. You know, it's actually came at the right time when young people have to also take the torch, because we have to shape the future that we want. Yes, we have entrusted people with our future, but now it is time to take responsibility of our own future and the future of the future generations. So it is the right time to engage young people. And it's also the right time to engage young people to also voice up, talk about these issues, join the conversations, and also demand for space to make contributions in the decisions of their own countries and the future of their countries.
Yes, Vincent, and that is a very good one. Maybe let me ask you a follow-up question to you before I let you go. There's always been an issue that the government is not listening to young people. What should young people do for the government to listen to their cries and to take action on what they're talking about?
Well, you know, if you need space, then you create space.
Yes.
If you're denied space, you create space. So young people, you know, they have the power, and we are the majority. They are the majority. I'm no longer in the youth category. So they are the majority. So they can still get together. And if they demand for that space, they claim for their responsibilities, they claim for that space, they will get it. Because today, if they're not aware of what is happening, if they're not concerned, even the young ones won't be concerned, because they are role models of their young brothers and sisters. So what the Ivans and the Javans and the Alis are doing today, they are sending a signal, and it would be better in the future, because they are claiming that space. They might not be heard today, but they might be heard tomorrow. So today is the right time to start that conversation and demanding that space to make a contribution.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you so much for joining the Youth for Climate Debates, and Asante Sana. Who else in the panel here? Because I see someone said he had a question. Professor Weshuli, your question, sir? Professor Weshuli?
Okay, good evening all. I think I had posed a question there to our esteemed panelists, and I would like to listen from them. This being an issue of climate change and politics, assuming that now you are in a position of leadership, you're now the president of that particular nation where you are coming from. Within the 100 days of your leadership, what will you get to do that shall get to impact in the lives of the people concerning the issue of climate change to be felt in the nation with 88% within the 100 days of your leadership?
Within the first 100 days, Mitch, you're the president, Ali, you're the president, Javan, and Ivan, what will you do? Ohisa Oduho, you're on the call, brother. Ohisa Oduho.
Can you confirm? Can you hear me well?
Very well.
Excellent. Now, mine to the panelists is just now, I beg that you may first forgive me. I did not start with you in the beginning. So if anyone may have addressed this matter, kindly pardon my question. Mine is this. politics is indivisible from ideology. Ideology here referring to the economic system employed in either form of ideology, whereby the matter of distribution of resources is concerned. And as such, therefore, in the matter of climate change and politics and the policy implementations that are required, under which political ideology, therefore, and here we're talking about capitalism, either communism, either a mixed economy, therefore, does the issue of politics and climate get entangled to the matter that it influences the implementation of policy? Because if we're talking about politics, it is completely indivisible from the political ideology that is being implemented therein. Hence, therefore, I would like the panelists to clarify which political ideology is best suited to tackle the matter of climate change. Thank you.
Wonderful. There being no other question, let me head straight to the panelists. Ali, start with you in a minute, kindly, because we are almost coming to the end of the debate.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Chairperson. To start with the question of Prof, with the first 100 days, the first thing that President Ali, that I will do, number one, 80% of the government management, it should be the youth, 20% old people. 2, give power to the young people. 3, invest into renewable energy. 4, climate change as a subject and compulsory to everyone. 5, I'll make sure that the Pan-African government, it comes with policies which must be a must, that Africa as a whole, they need to take them into account. The second question from my brother, I didn't get it clearly. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Javan Mugenzi.
Thank you. Starting from the first question from Professor, the thing I might do, and which might be the great important and also transformation, is trying to engage people who have been already starting up with engagement in transforming the world with every aspect of development, not looking on one angle, just giving space for every person, because I see these all issues which are occurring. It's just people, politicians, we're getting one ear to one part and one ear for not another. And this is the greatest problem we always face and we will always face. Because if you don't give space for the people to share their views, then what are you going to change? So the thing I can do, because I always believe in ideas of the people, because we are all what we always create, because we see all what we are following is the ideas of the people. So the great thing I can do is what is really workable for all the people, not for the individual. And that might really make that great change anytime I get the place to do that.
Great. Ivan, on the same question.
Thank you very much. Mine will be simple, and also I think Mr. Vincent just talked about it. Being a president does not make you the right expert to address this issue, climate change. But what I would do is create a platform for those who are capable of addressing it. What I would do is create that platform for investors, for scientists, for young people as well, to come up with better ideas that will address this issue. So that's simply what I would do, And also talking a little bit about this political ideology that is suitable to address this issue. I think it comes back to also what I just mentioned, that type of leadership that allows people to express what their thoughts are, and also allow them to be able to provide solutions that we as a community are facing. So it's that kind of political ideology that I would prefer to be in that position of addressing this issue of climate change.
Great. Mitch. Jen?
Okay. For me, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
If you were president, if I were president, what would I do within the first 100 days? I would ensure that the plans are set in place, the plans are robust, and they have an aspect of short-term sustainability and long-term sustainability. And most importantly, put in measures, especially with regards to creating awareness and sensitization to drive behavioral change in the citizens, so that if I bring up these policies, if I bring up these actions or measures towards it, they won't have a sour heart towards it. You see, the way you were in the elections and you were talking about Nairobi River having a problem and people were wondering, why are you telling us about climate yet we don't have food, you know? That type of behavioral change is very necessary for us before we even start anything, any conversation. It needs to start with our everyday, today habits. As for the best political ideology for climate tackling, I definitely would say accountability, just making sure that whatever you put in place is being followed up to the level. Thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. And maybe now I want to hand it over to my dear co-chair, as Ali rebranded us, or the co-moderator Liz Mwangi, just to take us through. Liz, what are some of the things that have come up from this conversation, that even as we come to the end of this debate, what are we taking home?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a number that has come up, especially from today's topic. We've had a lot of different and various, thoughts that people have, but also at the same time, I love how engaging and how the different panelists have allowed each other to really echo what they stand for and show that, this is what I believe in. So from today's takeaway, one of the things that really came out is that there are definitely key plans to mitigate climate change, but there's minimal implementation on the part of the government. So I think that strongly came out across the board. There was also something around the fact that we need to do a lot more to counter what is happening within climate change, and whether that looks like, implementing different initiatives, if it means by force becoming presidents one day, and ensuring that this is across the education curriculum. I think that's really big. And then there was also another issue, such as political instability and insecurity coming up, which I think Javan boldly spoke about and said that this is obviously turning away a lot of our leaders from thinking about climate change as a major issue. Then we also had another point that was talking about climate change justice being something that is going to take one step at a time. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and achieve it. It's something that's going to take a process, but this is an amazing platform and we're using this to start that process. I think there was also something else around the fact that climate change ought to be sustainable and not in rush. And I think also this feeds in very well with my previous point on climate change justice taking a step at a time. And finally, something else that did come up is that as we continue to demand for inclusivity in the fight against climate change, we also need to take responsibility as young people, and we need to also empower other people to do the same. So we should cultivate the culture of credibility, trusting process, and taking key initiative, which Jane echoed so boldly. So I think there's so many things that are coming out of this topic, and I love that we finished with it because it's something that it's bringing us back home. It's bringing us to essentially what makes our communities what they are. And that is the fact that politics will continue to surround us. It won't just be about the campaigns. It won't just be about people rallying in the streets, but also at the core is if we do implement leaders, exactly what are they doing in their own capacities? And as Omukoko, I think, mentioned on day 2, if we don't make noise about it, the leaders are not going to make noise about it. So it's up for us to actually start that conversation for others to follow. So, Opondo, I think you can now support me in looking back at this entire debate that we've held and looking at what exactly we've been talking about and why we've even been having these conversations, and what hopefully for you and even for our panelists would be the biggest hope moving forward as we now go back to our own, different niches and different environments.
You know what, Liz, I can't believe that these debates are coming to an end. It has been 4 days back-to-back debates, 7 to 9 p.m. East African time, day 1, climate change communication, day 2, climate change and food security, climate change and energy. That is the 3rd day yesterday, and today we're discussing climate change and politics, and we are even looking at governance. It all began by just a simple talk with a friend from DocuBox who said, you know what, we can make this happen. Yes, the climate solar, because I had seen what they did in the month of July, bringing different stakeholders from different communities together, artists together. For example, the video that we've watched today, you can see the animation and how we can just communicate about certain things, not necessarily by the normal way that we use, but even animation, they can be used. You've seen some of the most interesting films here since Monday. We talked about the farmer, Kisilu in Thank You for the Rain. We watched a film on Obadiah the 2nd day, and we're talking about agriculture and farmers still. Coming to day 3, there was a very interesting film on Magiro and how this man decided to provide a solution of power and energy in his community. Today, we're watching another video, that the animation, and the question is, where is climate finance? You know, all this has been made possible by also our friend, the Climate Justice and Resilience Fund, because were it not for them, we wouldn't have been here. So maybe my big question to all the debaters who are on this panel today, would you like this to happen again? Let me just see by a show of hand. Would you like this to happen again, Ivan? Would you like this to happen again, Mitch, Javan, and everyone, and even those in the panel? Maybe you can just raise your hand. Let's see how many hands can be raised in the other side, in the other hall. Let me see from Alex to Angie, everyone in the other side, because I see the hands. Would you like this to happen again? If there's an opportunity to do this, would you come? Would you invite your friend to be part of these conversations? We may not really have gotten all the young people that we wanted in this conversation, but I know it is a start. Everything must start from a certain point. Just the same way we discuss football and we discuss relationship, I think now climate change must be discussed with the same vigor, the same energy and the passion that we discuss other matters. Thank you to all the debaters who have been here from day 1. You did quite an amazing job. The topics were sent to you like a month ago. You showed up, you did your research, you've been powerful speakers, and these speeches don't end here. Keep sharing all the discussions that I've been having, because all the videos are available on various social media platforms. You can still follow the hashtag Youth for Climate Debates, because we didn't even state the year there, because we want this hashtag to keep on going on and on. So keep following the videos. You can always refer to these videos, take them, use them even to educate others in your community. Someone like Vincent Halimba invited us to Rwanda. Let the children at Agahozo Shalom get to watch what was discussed here. The children in Limpopo through Ali and Shamaine, let them have an opportunity to watch all this. My brother Javan from where you live in, you come from in Congo, and the refugee camp where you are currently living because of the obvious reasons, please take your time, maybe even just a laptop or a phone, show some the children around you some of these videos to watch, because it is important. This is just the beginning. To all those who made this great conversation possible, we thank you. DocuBox, our greatest friends, and Climate Justice and Resilience Fund, you made this possible. Any little support that was given to make this possible, we can't take it for granted. Climate Story Lab Africa, this is not the end. The platform is still here. You keep interacting, visit the website, read some of the best reports, and even refer to some of the best stories from the artists, from the community leaders on what climate change is all about and the action that we can take. To Community Voices and everyone who helped in managing and organizing this, to the social media team, working around the clock to ensure that the emails are getting to all of us, that the links are getting to all of us, and that even the data that we're getting, the support is getting to all of us. Thank you. I cannot say more than that, because it really sounds emotional, you know, when you are ending a program. If it is possible right now, maybe for anyone also in the other side of the audience, you can just come to the screen. Let me see. Let's have as many faces as possible on the screen if it is possible. I just want us to smile together and know that together we are in this war. Liz, we want to see people still exercise. As many people as possible, please come to the screen. Let's also do if possible. Anyone who can turn on their videos. Let's finish this in style, please, if possible. Let me see. Professor Weshuli, where are you today? And everyone, let's have everyone on the screen, because it looks good. It looks fine. Asanteni sana. Ali Malekane, how do we say thank you in South African language?
Honorable Chairperson, with South African language, when you say thank you, you say Kia leboha.
So I want you to say that and connect it to the Climate Story Lab, Africa.
Okay. In which fashion, Chairperson?
I mean, I just wanted to thank the Climate Story Lab Africa for organizing this.
Oh, okay. Let me put it this way, Chairperson. Ria leboha, the Climate Story for arrange and train our rekono go kopana le maAfrika lo go ra jwela plekeng tse di fapaneng re tlo ga le ba ka matla go tile. What I also like to say is that what I like to say is that we thank you so much, guys, for taking the time and inviting us. This is a pleasure and we enjoy a lot. One thing that I'd like to say Africa is very powerful and very short and brief. I'd like to say Matla Arona Viva Africa.
Thank you. Javan Mugenzi maybe knows the language of your home, just to thank everyone who participated and even the organizers, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. My language is quite connected with the Rwandan language, which is Kinyarwanda. Yeah. I don't know how I can make it in translation, but it is Kinyarwanda and I speak it very well. Yeah, I can say kwiga ku kibazo cy'ihindagurika ry'ikirere. That's it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ivan Samunani, do the same so that we come to the end of this.
Okay, so in Kinyarwanda, I would say murakoze cyane kubw'uyu mwana cyane climate change, Climate Story Africa Lab for this opportunity, and I think this is a good platform to see happening, engaging young people, not just us, but we'll also be happy to see all these young people participated in the program, being part in, taking part in different.
Thank you. Ohisa Oduho, in your simple language.
Anadero Halena Iazol, Halena Shukran, de kalam al fogo mafinas kitira bonus, lakin ana bonus kalam de hena, kalam de muhim, odero Halena nena kule bonus. Shukran Shadid.
Thank you. Thank you. And now to everyone watching from Kenya, we say Asanteni Sana, Mbaki Salama, all the best to all of you. Climate Story Lab Africa, we are still here. CAMD Voices, we are still here. Climate Youth for Climate Debates goes on and on. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you so much, Buddy.
Good night.